And welcome into another edition of the Yinziders podcast. I'm Jenna Harner, joined by Mike DeFabo from The Athletic. Mike, the Steelers start the season 1-0, a 34-32 win over the New York Jets in a fashion I don't think anybody anticipated.
Yeah, I feel like when the Steelers signed Aaron Rodgers, even the people who were most optimistic, what they would have said was Aaron Rodgers might not be in his prime anymore, but the Steelers don't need him to be because they've got the highest paid defense. They've got a reliable running game, and they've got this rebuilt offensive line that's going to support him in open holes. But in this game, that defense was really disappointing. The offensive line was porous, could not open holes in the running game at all. It really struggled to protect Aaron Rodgers, but it was the 41-year-old quarterback himself who was the biggest catalyst. He threw for four touchdowns, completing them to four different receivers. I was impressed. I thought that this was a pretty good performance, and my biggest takeaway was if Aaron Rodgers can continue to play like this, maybe the Steelers have something. At the same time, is he going to be able to continue to stand behind that offensive line and stay healthy with his mobility clearly declining and clearly a lot of problems from that offensive line?
And I feel like you have to also mention Chris Boswell because a 60-yard field goal, like we see these guys how many times a week do these ridiculously long kicks in practice and in pregame warmups. And, you've seen how the NFL is transitioning more to, I feel like, where kickers just have such a longer range than what you and I even grew up seeing. But that 60-yarder might have been good. It was definitely good from 65. It might have been good from 70 if the Steelers needed him to kick that. But that is
Yeah, it was
why
ridiculous.
it was. What was it like in stadium? Did you
Well,
realize how far it was?
yeah, it was because like the Steelers were kind of floundering there once they started to get on the fringe of field goal range, and I was trying to do the math in my head, the math for dummies. I love them. It's always plus 17. And
Yep.
then you add whatever yard line they're on plus 17. And I'm thinking, is this close enough? And sure enough, Boz got it done. As he kicked it and it went through, I was kind of thinking, man, remember that report that came out that said that he wanted more money? Maybe he had a point. Maybe he actually did have a point with that one.
And I love how Mike Tomlin referred to him after the game. Our kicker's a serial killer, and like that, you just there's
We
already
need
been
to make some.
shirts made.
That's what I was gonna say. We need some shirts down the strip that are like wanted for serial killing.
I think what is it, Pittsburgh Clothing Company? I think they made one. Shout outs to them. Our
Did
kicker's
they
a serial
really?
killer. Yeah, already. It's our like not even less than 24 hours. It was pretty much 12 hours since, but you expect that here in Pittsburgh. I had to laugh. I don't even know if I've told you this story yet as we're recording the podcast. I went to the doctor and got blood drawn today, and as the woman's wrapping me up, and you know how they put the gauze down and wrap the medical tape. She's like, "We got our black and gold tape." She's like, "It's Victory Monday. Everybody's getting this today."
I
And then
love that. They
she,
got the terrible towels for the babies in the NICU, and then for the people donating blood, they give them the black and gold tape. That's
like,
perfect.
and then I just said, "Yeah, what a win!" And she goes, "Boz from 60 money," and I was just like, "I can we hang out?" Like, but this you grew up here, you know Pittsburgh. This is just Pittsburgh. This is exactly who everybody is. Like Victory Monday, vibes are incredibly high, and rightfully so because again, there's problems with this defense that you assume are going to be corrected, but the offense was one of the biggest question marks coming into the year, and there are still a lot of things that I'm concerned about, like you mentioned, the offensive line. But seeing Aaron Rodgers, seeing DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin also really, really impressed me in this game.
Yeah, that was a nice contested catch. He had a couple nice catches in addition to the touchdown where he was kind of wide open. I thought his most impressive catch was it may have set up the Jalen Warren touchdown, but a contested catch. He got hit. He still, maintained possession of the football. I thought that that was pretty impressive. How about Jenna? Let's zoom out for a second. Okay. What did you feel like? Because there's always overreaction after week one, right? They win, they're going to go to the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is going to be the MVP. They're incredible. If they had lost by 2 points, if Boss had missed that field goal, it would be this offensive line is horrible. It's going to be a disaster. They can't run the football. This defense is overrated, overhyped. Let's play a game here where I want you to tell me which of the things you believe in most, which are the things that we saw, and which of the things do you think are going to be corrected or the pendulum's going to swing the other direction? You
I'll
could just start
start
with
with
one. You don't have to give them all.
just list them all at once. Ready, set, go. The thing that I do truly believe in the most, based on what we saw, is just the distribution to the pass catchers and how that's going to work as the season progresses. Because you had four different guys scoring touchdowns. I said this on Channel 11 Sunday during the game, and I tweeted it too. I said, if you had Ben Skoranek as the first touchdown scorer of the season for the Steelers, congratulations, you just won the Powerball, because I don't know if anybody thought that was going to be the case. But Ben Skoranek catches a touchdown. Jalen Warren catches a touchdown. Calvin Austin catches a touchdown. Johnny Smith. There is a distribution of wealth from Aaron Rodgers when this offense was moving. And I think that is something we're going to continue to see. Pat Fryermuth with some impressive catches over the middle, something we did not see a whole lot of.
You're just saying that because he was on the show. We don't have to suck up to Pat anymore. He was already
It's
here, so we don't have to be nice to him anymore from now on. But no, I mean he did have a nice catch that actually started the the eventual game-winning field goal drive. So I agree with you. I still think that DK is going to get a ridiculous target share.
of course.
And but it was, people keep saying who's number two. And Mike Tomlin's answer was like, look, it's going to be a lot of different guys. Some days it's going to be Calvin Austin. Some days it's going to be Johnny Smith. Some days it's going to be Pat Fryermuth. And it's not a satisfying answer, but I think that that's accurate. I think it is going to depend upon who's the opponent, what kind of coverage are they playing, who's having a nice day. I think that that's all going to be part of it. I'll go something on the flip side, and I'll start with a concern. And my biggest concern for the offense right now is that in no setting have I seen the first team offensive line open holes and create a reliable running game, right? Going back to like their first day in pads, nothing. In the preseason games, which everybody saw, when the first team offensive line was out there, very little room to run. And in the joint practice against the Bucks, same thing. And we saw it again here. And I just, don't know if this is something that they can fix as the season continues or if this is going to be a problem. But if they are unable to run the football, the real problem is you've got a quarterback who's not very mobile at 41 years old. If the defense knows that and they know you can't run the football, they're going to bring all kinds of heat. And as much as it was a problem to protect Rodgers in that first game, if you don't have the running game to keep them honest and to create off of play action, then I think that you really have a problem. So I think of anything that I'm looking for out of the Steelers to improve quickly, I think being able to run the football will be atop the list for me.
Yeah, and I think for me as well, I agree with you there, but also too, the run defense, there has to be a step taking forward, and I'm a little bit concerned. And when I was tweeting during the game, Derek Carmen's absence, I think, is a factor. If you have him in there, I think they play better. How much better is what concerns me based on what we saw, because I want to go back and look at a little bit more of the film now that we've had a little bit of time to digest this game. But I was concerned with what we saw out of Cam Hayward. I know you mentioned you were concerned with what you saw from Keanu Benton. Like, you need these guys to step up, and you need more from these guys, because did you see what happened in Sunday Night Football and the way that the Ravens ran? Derrick
That
Henry
that
once
was
again
my
missed.
that was my first thought was I covered the game and then I'm sitting there watching the Ravens and I'm thinking like this would be a really big problem if the Steelers don't get this fixed. And like to the to the Steelers' credit, they've acknowledged that they have a problem. The
Yeah,
defensive coordinator Terrell Austin came out during OTAs and he said, "We have a Baltimore problem." Well, the Jets in a lot of ways were kind of like Baltimore light. You've got a mobile, dynamic quarterback that week a lot of defensive backs were comparing to Lamar Jackson just because of his athleticism and because of some of the similar stuff they like to run in terms of RPOs, read option, things along that lines that highlight the quarterback mobility. You've got a team that's committed to running the football. You've got a pretty decent Jets offensive line, but still, they're like the baby Baltimore Ravens. Like if you had a problem with the Jets, it's going to be a massive problem if you don't get it fixed against Baltimore. So I agree with you. You hope that Derek Harmon provides a boost, but some of the other guys on the defensive front need to play a little bit better. I also feel like those inside linebackers, I think they could have done a little better job of shedding blocks and bringing down ball carriers, you know, not 15 yards down the field. So we'll have to see how much it gets improved. We have an interview with our Seahawks writer at The Athletic later in the show, and he'll break down some of what the challenges are that the Steelers are going to face against what looks to be a Seahawks team that might not be great at running the ball, but is committed to running the football.
And we can talk about Seattle in a minute, but I want to let the people know that you were watching that Bills Ravens game from a Buffalo Wild Wings, and not just any Buffalo Wild Wings, the Buffalo Wild Wings you went to 3 times in just over 24 hours when you were in Secaucus, New Jersey this
See, This
weekend.
is this is something that I didn't do on purpose, and it's also something I'm in no way proud of. What happened was I decided I was going to stay by the stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, or whatever. So um, I check in, and it's Saturday, college football time. I go to Buffalo Wild Wings, and I have some lunch, and I watch a game. Then I come back to my room and I take a nap, and I wake up and I think like I'm going to go somewhere nice, maybe venture into the city, have a little experience on the road. Instead, I get a phone call that the whole Cam Hayward situation has come to a resolution. And so then I'm frantically trying to write that story and get it published. By the time I'm done, the only thing that's open is the Buffalo Wild Wings that's in the parking lot. I begrudgingly go there for a second time in the same day. I seem like a crackhead to everybody working there. Then I cover the game, and the next day, by the time I get out of the stadium, the only thing that's open is again a Buffalo Wild Wings. So I feel like I've hit my quota for I don't know maybe like next 2 years um, of Buffalo Wild Wings, but I'm not going back for a really long time. And I don't even really
Hilarious.
particularly like Buffalo Wild Wings. I think they're pretty mid wings. I love chicken wings. It's my favorite food and one of my favorite things about being alive in general. And they are not good wings even. So I'm kind of ashamed of myself that that's what I did.
Stick with us here on the Insiders. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
All right, we now welcome onto the show a very special guest, outside linebacker for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Alex Highsmith. Alex, thank you so much for joining us. Now, first question. When you were really young, you made your television debut
hmm
on Dawson's Creek. What's the bigger honor for you, appearing on this podcast or making your debut when you were a baby?
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty cool story that I can tell people that I haven't had an acting career, being a baby on Dawson's Creek, and I always get the same reaction every single time. People are like, "No way, no way," and then I just pull them up, show them a picture. But I still remember the first time that where I could understand it. Like my parents showed me that, I'm like, "Dang, that's crazy." That I was a actor on a pretty popular show at the time. It wasn't crazy popular, but it was a popular show. So I think it's pretty cool to say that I've had an acting career.
No,
In my
it's
past.
amazing. So how did that come to be? Did your parents ever explain to you?
They
They were just
did. I mean, they explained it to me. I think just it was just some opportunity. I mean, I honestly forget the whole story about it, but I think that they knew someone or it was some opportunity had popped up and provided for me, and they got me on there. I had a couple of little scenes where I was crying. That's about it.
and you were just like a newborn at that point, pretty young.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel like you missed your calling? Do you feel like you could have been the next Matthew McConaughey or, you know, one of
I
those guys?
mean, yeah, I would say that my moment, my time to shine in that show was pretty cool. I had a few moments of glory in there, but I don't think I was made to be an actor. I mean, I feel like I'm good with certain things when it comes to impersonations and stuff like that, but I don't think acting was really what I've been called to do. But hey,
You
I gave it a try when I was a baby.
you do have a pretty good though Waterboy Bobby Boucher impression, and you were even Bobby Boucher for one of the team Halloween parties, right?
Yeah, yeah, a couple years ago. Yep, 23.
Can we get a little bit of that? Can we get some of the
Yeah. I mean,
Waterboy?
it was. Yeah, my mama said that it was a cool thing to do on Halloween, so it was really cool. Yes, my mama said it was super cool to dress up as Bobby Boucher for Halloween. Yes, it was really cool. Go, go, my dogs. Little song. I gotta get myself like in the mood to do it.
I love that. Now, are you a big movie guy in general? Are you checking them out? Are you a big Adam Sandler fan in general?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge movie fan. I shoot, I mean, me and my family, we always grew up going to the movies. We would, I've always been big into like Star Wars and Marvel. So I'll probably say those are kind of some of my favorite movies that I love to watch. But I have like a little surround sound system in my basement with my TV to kind of make it movie like. Have a little popcorn maker that I'll make some popcorn sometimes. But I've always been a big movie guy, big show guy. Um, Probably some of my favorites, I would have to say. Remember the Titans for me. That's me and my dad's favorite movie. Always has been, always will be. I'm up there. I love Avengers: Infinity War, probably my favorite Marvel movie of all time. And then Dark Knight. It's just a
Hmm.
classic. The second one, so not Batman Begins, but the second one, the Christopher Nolan series. I say those are probably three of my favorite movies, for sure.
Now, you mentioned that you're a big Marvel guy. If your linebacker room, if they were going to be the Avengers, who would be who? Who's playing which character within your room there?
Mm. Shoot. Let's see. I say with have Peyton as maybe like Hawkeye or something like that. I would say, or Flash, because that
There
dude
we
is. I mean, I
go.
know Flash is in Marvel, but Peyton zooming around. I'm trying to think who else. TJ, I mean, he's a captain for us, so I can always say Captain America. And then I mean, trying to think who PQ could be. I don't know. I mean, I think PQ's got I could maybe see like a little Spider Man. I don't know, something like that. I think it'd be something that I could be. And then me myself. I mean, I've always done the Thanos snap and stuff like
Okay.
that. So I mean, I know he's a villain, but or Hulk. I could see that as well. So I'll probably say one of those things. But yeah, I'll probably say Captain America, uh, Hawkeye. Shoot, PQ could even be uh, Thor and like Hulk for myself.
I could see the resemblance, you and the Hulk.
Yeah, yeah,
I see
that's
a
what I
little
would say
bit.
as a hero. Yeah,
Now, every good superhero or supervillain has a good origin story, and you've got a great origin story coming from zero-star recruit at one point. Now, I wrote about this, but look, we know people hate to read. No one likes to read. So let's talk a little bit about like what got you here and how you arrived in the NFL. When you were in high school, like let's say your sophomore year. How big were you? What were you looking at in terms of like your possibilities in terms of playing football long term?
yeah. I mean, shoot, sophomore year, I didn't think there was no chance. And you could ask anyone that knew me. There was they probably thought NFL for that guy, like no college football, no shot for that guy. But I had a growth spurt going into my junior year. I don't know exactly what my height and weight was during my sophomore year of high school, but I just know that I wasn't short, but like I was a little bit shorter. I was chubby. I was out of shape, and definitely like I played JVs freshman and sophomore year, so I didn't get any varsity reps until my junior year when I hit that growth spurt. So I hit that growth spurt, got taller. I got pretty skinny my junior year. Started really taking things serious in the weight room. I got involved with this zero period weightlifting class that we had at high school. So in my first couple years, I was just taking like weightlifting during first period, but it would be with other students who weren't athletes or other sports. But uh, going into my let's see, it was the spring semester of my sophomore year. I signed up for the zero period weightlifting class, and it was just football guys. So zero period was 7 a.m. So like I was up 6 o'clock every day. leaving the house 6:30, 6:40 to get to make sure I got there on time. And the football coaches taught that class. They taught the weightlifting and the conditioning in that class, and that I still remember like it was. It was rough. Like I was struggling during it, but man, I tell you, it really brought something out of me that I didn't know I had. Work ethic in me that I didn't know I had, and it really transformed my life. Uh,
Hmm.
that class really just brought something out of me.
Well,
And then we should go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, even then, though, you started out as a middle linebacker, inside linebacker, and you were playing on a team that what your senior year you guys didn't even win a single game. Is that
Not
right?
one. Yeah,
And
not one.
I've been there myself on some pretty bad teams. What was recruiting like at that point, though? You didn't really have a lot of offers, a lot of
Yeah.
interest.
Yeah, I mean, so so after my junior year, like I had a pretty good junior year, nothing crazy, but I was like full time starter, so I wasn't like all conference or anything like that. And my dad brought me to different summer camps throughout the year. So I went to Elon, I went to UNC Chapel Hill, I went to NC State, Wake Forest, and then UNC Charlotte, of course. So just going out there, trying to get my name out there, and it's pretty cool part of the story. Coach Aaron Curry was coaching there at the time. He was coaching D line, and that's where I first met him, and my dad first met him as well. And I think my dad told me, said, hey, like your son, like he showed what he could do today. Like we'll have our eye on him. And so I had a good camp at UNC Charlotte, and there wasn't really, like I said, wasn't much recruiting. I was recruited by Davidson College was one of the schools that was recruiting me. Furman University in South Carolina was another one, the SES school that was recruiting me. There were no like big time D1 schools that were really looking after me or offering me, and I just really used it as motivation, especially going into my senior year, and then ended up having a good senior year. Made all conference. I wasn't all state, but I feel like if we would have won a few games, I probably would have been. But just really using it as motivation, just work even harder, just make the most of every opportunity I could, and then so yeah, we finished the season, and then
And
that's
still no scholarship offer though, even though
yeah.
they were interested in you.
I had a partial from Furman, partial scholarship offer from Furman, and then I had an academic scholarship from Davidson if I got into the school. Unfortunately, I didn't because I was really good when it came in the classroom. I was good, but I was a terrible test taker, and my ACT and my SAT did not measure up to Davidson standards because Davidson is an amazing school, a really hard school to get into, and so I didn't get in, but those are the only two offers that I had, and so I remember going. It's like this is the really cool part of the story as well. So I went to Eugene Ashley High School in Wilmington, and our rival high school was Hoggard High School. Their coach was Scott Braswell, and he's won a couple state championships there with them, and they were our rival. I say they're our rival, but I never beat them. So it's like we could just say they're our rival. But anyways,
Yeah.
his son at the time in 2015, 2014, 2015, was his name was Scotty Braswell Jr. and he was GA at Charlotte at the time. And like me and my dad were talking with Coach Braswell hard, and like, hey, is there any way you can pass my film along to your son, just so, like so the coaches can look at it and just give me a shot, give me an opportunity. And they did that. I got an invite to come to the Charlotte Spring game in 2015, but still no offer or anything like that. And I ended up applying to Charlotte, got accepted, enrolled there. I was exercise science kinesiology major, so like that's what I wanted to do for school, and that's why I wanted to go there because they had what I wanted to do for school. And I remember at the time going into the summer, I was rooming with a few of my best friends from high school, three of us, and I get this email and a notification, from the team or whatnot, and they said that you're going to be in the dorms with the football players. And so I was just like, oh, it was like, is that it? And like, yeah. So that was the moment I knew that I was going to be on the team was when I got my dorm switched uh, to there to the football dorm, and I didn't end up going for camp my freshman year. I was just still working out at home, still grinding at home. Me and my best friend to this day, Nick Hancock. He was out there grinding with me. He was kind of my trainer, my coach. for me during that summer. He took time out of his summer to help me get better because he believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. So huge shout out to him. And we were just working and grinding all summer. And I get, like I said, I didn't get there till after camp. I got there the first day of school. I remember, my parents, my sister, they all dropped me off, and I just knew, from that moment, I gotta do what I gotta do. I gotta work hard. I gotta get after it. And I just went in the first day. They were practicing because they'd already been through camp, so they started game planning for the
Hmm.
first game. There was like a group of like 10 walk-ons of us that came the very first day of school. Like we were in the visitors' locker room, not even like the main locker room, and while they were practicing, we were doing running, so we were running gassers in the end zone and whatnot. And I was like beating everybody. Like I was sprinting, I was getting after it. The other dudes were cruising. They're probably like, "Oh, look at this guy, this try hard here."
Yeah.
But in the day, I was the only one from that group to be there the next 1 year later. So just really coming in with the mindset to outwork everybody, just be my best self. Then redshirted my first year. I obviously didn't play any freshman, sophomore year, or redshirt freshman year. I was a backup outside linebacker, and I'd never played outside backer before. I got there, and I just went to the outside backer room because I wanted to pass rush. They didn't really have like a place where they wanted me to go, so I just said, you know what, I'm gonna just go be in the outside backer room. I think I remember I walked in, the coach's part. I remember the coach, Napoleon Sykes. He was the coach there at the time, the outside backer coach. I remember a little confused look on his face. I'm like, is this guy supposed to be in here? Like, I don't know. And I went in there and just, like I said, worked my butt off and ended up earning a scholarship with them redshirt freshman year where I played special teams. And then was a backup, outside backer again my sophomore year. Played a lot of special teams, got a couple starts that year, I think. And then I didn't start till my senior year. Yeah, man, just testament to hard work and God's faithfulness in my life, and just him opening a lot of doors for me, and so I'm just super grateful for the journey that I've had because it's really helped me to have the mindset that I have today and be the player that I am today.
Yeah, definitely. That's a crazy story to go from a zero-star guy. You get to college and still don't even know if you're going to have an opportunity to walk on and then ultimately make it to the NFL. Then you come to the NFL and you get rewarded with a second contract. How do you continue to maintain that same mindset and that mentality when you have success? And, how do you still keep that chip on your shoulder, so to speak?
Yeah, just never being satisfied. I know that God has given me this platform, to not waste it, to make the most of every opportunity that I get, and it really kills me when I see guys that have a lot of talent in this league. I've been, this is going on year 6 now. I can't tell you how many guys I've seen that have had all the talent in the world, but have just wasted it because they don't care. They're not doing the right things off the field. They're not taking care of their body. They're not studying film, and so for me, it's just continuing to keep that chip on my shoulder and that edge that I've always had. Just never being satisfied, And I know that, I've been a second contract guy. I've been here for 6 years, but I know this year, like I want to be in the Pro Bowl. I want to make an All Pro team. I want to make a Super Bowl run with this team, and so that's just. I know I still have goals set out for myself, and so but ultimately, the main one is making a Super Bowl run with these guys and winning it, and so just I know to do that. You just can never be satisfied, and you just got to keep working and keep getting after it. So, yeah, just continue to have that chip on my shoulder. I think it's something that's always carried me.
Hmm. And you guys have a pretty loaded defense, and you made a lot of additions even to what was already a pretty well-stocked defense. Obviously, the first game didn't necessarily go exactly the way you guys would have had scripted it. When you have a situation like that where week one, the defense maybe doesn't play up to the standards you guys have set for yourself, what are some of the conversations like? Who are some of the leaders that are stepping up? What are the messages from coaches, and how do you
hmm
guys make sure that you correct things moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just got to look at our process. I think uh, when you look at it, there's certain things that you know if you don't do in practice, you can't expect them to happen during the game. And so I think we just got to be more detailed in practice. We got to practice with a better intensity as a unit as a whole. And just holding guys accountable. Like if someone's not like practicing to the standard, like we got to call that dude out and make sure not personal, but like we gotta we got to do better than what we did last week, and we know we had the defense to be the best defense in the league. And so it's like for us to come out and perform the way we did was definitely disappointing, and we just got to have a chip on our shoulder going into week two because, like I said, we know we have a lot of guys who can make plays, a lot of guys who have done this thing for a long time, and so we just got to be more detailed, be more physical. Obviously, we got punched in the mouth, which is embarrassing. In those first 3 quarters or so, we didn't really step up until we needed to in that fourth quarter. But I think just coming out and just starting fast because we know when we start fast with defense, like we make it tough on offenses, and so ultimately, stopping the run and getting teams in those third and long circumstances, so we really can get after them. You know, cause sacks, cause fumbles, interceptions, because we know that when we're creating turnovers as a defense, that's when we're the most dangerous.
hmm Now things didn't start the way you guys wanted, but there was a exciting play to end things with Jalen
Yeah.
Ramsey and his huge hit. Now, first of all, you had something to do with that with a quarterback pressure, but I wanted to ask you about Ramsey. Like, what kind of guy is he like behind the scenes? Because he definitely, at least in our interactions, like with the media, you could tell he's got that hard edge. He's a feisty kind of guy, not afraid to be physical in your face. But what have you learned about him? What do you think that he's going to bring to your defense?
Yeah, I mean he's a great dude. He's a great teammate, great locker room guy for us. He's done a good job, of leading in that defensive back room, and obviously a lot of guys respect him because of his repertoire and everything that he's done. He's been at the top of his position, for a long time now, and so having a guy like that, who commands respect in that room and on our defense, on our team, is just awesome. And so I think he showed what he's capable of this week. Especially making that last big play, like that was a heck of a play. And so, like I said, I'm just excited for him because he's so versatile. We got him in many different positions and stuff like that. And so I know, along with him and other new guys that we have, like the more these guys get accustomed to playing in our defense, like we're only just going to get better. And so, like I said, I'm excited having him and all our other new guys on the defense for sure.
hmm Now, last question for you, and then I'll let you go. Just the Mike Tomlin had a funny phrase when he described the Seattle Seahawks, and he said that it turned into rock'em sock'em robots versus the 49ers. They are a physical team. They're going to want to run the football. What do you feel like is the biggest key to kind of getting you guys on the right page in that department going forward, and in the make with that being a critical matchup in this game?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it starts Wednesday at practice. We got to come. We got to have a physical day at practice. We can't be, you know, not practicing the way that we uh, want to play. If we want to play physical, we got to practice physical, and we know that Wednesday's a padded day, so I think it starts there. But just coming out of the jump, like we just can't let teams get started, especially with that running game. So I think we just have to come out and really make a statement on our first drive, whether that's a 3 and out or a takeaway, something to really, get our day going, get the crowd into it, because we know when we're at home, and the crowd's into it and we're balling, like it's tough for offenses to score on us. So that's what we got to do, and they're coming into our house, so that's what we got to do.
For sure. Well, it should be a good game on Sunday. Alex, thank you so much for making some time for us. We really appreciate it. All the best the rest of the season.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Mike.
We now welcome onto the show a very special guest, Mike Dugar from The Athletic. Mike, thank you for joining us. He covers the Seahawks, does a fantastic job, and is very familiar with DK Metcalf, obviously. So that was the big blockbuster move between these two teams for the second week in the row. Remember, the Steelers is going to have a pseudo revenge game against their old team. I'm curious, Mike, just what did you think about the trade? Did that catch you off guard, or did you feel like there were some rumblings behind the scenes, and did you get a sense that maybe a breakup could be coming?
No, I was pretty surprised that they listened to DK's request, because players act out all the time, but if you're a valuable enough player, they're like, no, see you at camp, see you at OTAs, we don't have to do, what you say. So I was surprised that when DK asked, that he was like, that they were like, okay, cool, we'll call around, see what we can do. I was surprised by that because I didn't feel like their post DK plan would be very good. This is not a spendy team in free agency, so I was like, okay, what else are you gonna do? And what do you know? They go sign like Marquez Valdez-Scantling to be like their take the top off the defense guy. He didn't even make the team, right? And so then they go get Cooper Kupp, who has like this overlapping skill set with JSN, and Sam Darnold throws for 150 yards in the first game and they lose, right? So I knew that this all could be a possibility production wise, but by the end of it, and I didn't think they drafted a receiver high either. So I was like, huh, that's weird that you guys would listen to him, um, especially because it wasn't over money either. But
Hmm.
it sounds like they didn't even get to negotiate. It wasn't a negotiation. It was more like I just don't like it here anymore, which I perfectly understand from DK's perspective. Like you said, I know DK don't know him personally. Like, we don't hang out, but up until this season, I covered every day of his NFL career. To the day he was drafted to the day he was traded. So that's every training camps, every OTAs. That's locker rooms. That's everything. Home road, playoff success, not making the playoffs. So I can see why he would look at the state of the Seahawks offense and the franchise and be like, "What the hell are we doing here?" And I
Hmm.
think a very underrated part of players' careers, or at least how they view their careers and the trajectory of the team they're on, can be shaped by how things were when they got there. So you look at DK, right? His first year they make the divisional round, so it just kind of sets a standard, whether it's real or not, right? The rookies don't know any better. It's like, oh, that's who we are. That's what we do. Like we're playoff contenders. Not to mention the Seahawks history prior to him getting here. It's like, oh, this team
Right.
wins. I got here, we won. So that's what we do. We win. And then the very next year, they win 12 games. He goes for 1,300 yards, then win a division. It's like, okay, this is what we do. Right. And they haven't won a playoff game since. So I can see why DK was like, yo, what's up? Can we change some things right here? And then them being like, I just, what, let me get out of here. I was just, again, surprised that they were like, sure, we'll look for the best offer and see ya. That part was surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, you see, like with Jacoby Myers from the Raiders, he asks for a trade, and they basically say, "No, we don't have a plan for another wide receiver, so you're staying at least for now." So, it is a little
Terry
bit
McLaurin,
surprising.
too, same thing.
Yeah, plenty of guys ask for the trade, but to actually get it is a different thing than asking. You know, After covering DK for a number of years, do you feel like he's going to come into this with any kind of extra motivation, any kind of extra incentive, or is he the kind of guy that this is just another game for him?
Um, I think that he just naturally has a chip on his shoulder no matter what. He is kind of one of those. I take that personally kind of guys, not to the psycho level of like a Kobe or a Michael Jordan or even a Richard Sherman to use an NFL example, but like I believe on his draft day call, for instance, when he was crying that they called him and he was very happy. He also, I believe, said, "What took y'all so long?" And he was picked 64, right? There were hundreds of other guys, picked after him, I believe, or at least if 100 and some change, right? But what took y'all so long? Sentiment there that kind of shows like, yo, man, I should have been, picked higher. I got something to prove.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's one of those guys who can name all the other receivers drafted ahead of him, like a Amon Ra or like even a Draymond Green on the NBA side. But I do think he's just kind of always angry. You know what I mean? Always trying to prove something. So in that regard, it'll be another game. But I also think that all the players who downplay the revenge game are lying to themselves to some extent,
For
right?
sure.
Particularly when you were traded or cut, like if you just decided to leave, like even if you asked for a trade and got it, they still were willing to get rid of you, right? Like there's something to the idea of like, oh, okay, so you did think like I was
Hmm.
replaceable to some level, where quarterback, receiver, whether you're the damn punter, right? So I do think that this game will mean more to him than probably any other game on the schedule. So yeah, I think it's gonna. He'll probably downplay it when he talks to you guys, but no, been around DK enough. I know he's gonna want to go for 100, score a couple times. He respects the Seahawks, I'm sure, but it's football. He's a super competitive guy, and so he's good, definitely gonna want to beat his old team.
Yeah, it's like what we saw with Aaron Rodgers during the week. He said, "Oh, it's just week one." Then he beats the Jets, and all of a sudden he says, "Yeah, I wanted to beat everybody associated with the Jets."
It's a
So,
great line.
might say the right things during the week, but that might not be his true emotions.
Yeah, I'm interested too, kind of matchup wise, how Seattle's defense is going to look to limit him. And obviously he's the Steelers' number one receiver. I have some friends in Seattle on the TV side of things, and they said that him and Breek Woolen used to kind of go at each other kind of constantly in practice. Is that true? And do we kind of expect that come Sunday?
Yeah, I think DK kind of honestly just went at everybody because again, that's just kind of who it's what he is, you know. Like he reminds me of Richard Sherman in that regard, and that like Sherm used to be almost like insulted when you targeted him. It's like, how dare you think you could complete a ball over here, you know? And then DK kind of the same thing, like how dare you think you can run with me, you know, or jump with me, you know? Just kind of how he carries himself. So yeah, he would go at it with the other good corners like Reek or like Devin Witherspoon or Shaquille Griffin when they were teammates had good battles. But then even guys who were just like third stringers, you know, backups, you know, he'd go at it with them too and cuss them out and cuss out the coaches, you know, in like a playful, you know, how training camp gets. Sometimes guys just get to it's 100 degrees, right? They just yelling and screaming at each other. So yeah, that was him with Reek. That was him with pretty much everybody. It was all love at the end of the day, but that's how he gets down. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of like probably handshakes and jersey swaps, you know, or I guess you can only swap one jersey, but like just handshakes and pictures after the game. But like pregame and during the game, yeah, it's on. Like he's gonna let them know, you know, in a good way. I think he has a lot of respect for a lot of the guys that played here. He's the type of guy that's like hyper competitive, but then as soon as the game ends, you know, we're all good. My favorite example to show people or tell people is I think NFL Films captured. They played the Commanders in 2022, I want to say, or 2023, and I think that was a tight end's name, Logan Thomas, I think is his name. He goes up to him, he's like, "Hey, my son, like he's big as hell, just like you know, like he really likes you." He was like, "Oh, where?" And DK doesn't even know Logan. He's like, "Here, give your son my jersey here. Take it off right now." You know, like that's DK after the game, and they lost. The Seahawks won that game actually, but like that's the type of guy he is. Like when you're on the white lines, it's war. As soon as the game ends, like we can show love to each other.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like during interviews and press conferences, every question he's always answering it with "Yes, sir," "No, sir," "Yes, ma'am," "No, ma'am." Very Southern, very polite in that way. Like you wouldn't expect it necessarily when you see this, physical freak who just dominates people and is such a big trash talker and intense on the field. That he's kind of like a little bit different, very, very polite off the field. Um, the other thing that stuck out to me was like you're mentioning that it's almost like he would be insulted by stuff. Like he we were talking to him about like going up against Sauce Gardner, and finally got to the point during the interview where he was like, "Look, bro, the way that I look at this, they have to stop me. Like I'm not worried about their DBs. They should be worried about me," kind of thing. And then the other thing that we learned about him through Aaron Rodgers is like he's very detail oriented. And he said that at the end of every practice, DK wants to end with a catch. And he said that he gave DK this assignment. Like he said, I want you to send me your thoughts after watching the opponent and preparing. And Rodgers apparently forgot about that. That was during like training camp. And then, sure enough, on like the Tuesday before the game, he gets a big long text message from DK breaking down the Jets. What else did you learn about just like his makeup and what makes him tick over your time covering him?
Yeah, we learned pretty early on, I think in his second season, about like asking him about insert number one corner here. He's just like, bro, they have to, like, I'm the problem. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's cool. That is how he's wired. I think that's how guys kind of should be wired, to be honest. And it's not that he doesn't respect them. It's just like I'm me, you know, like you got to cover me. The detailed thing is funny you mentioned that, or the homework assignment, so to speak. That was part of the reason why he said he wanted out too. Is he used the example of, Thursday Night Football last year. Uh, they have like a three and out, I believe it was, and he gets on the. This is when their OC was actually upstairs instead of like on the field like some OCs are. He gets on the phone that they use to communicate with the OC, and he just screams at him. He's like, "Can we please run past these guys with a lot more expletives than I just used?" Um, and later on a podcast with Marshawn Lynch and Mike Robinson, two former Seahawks, he explained that he wasn't. The context was that, with the previous regime, Pete Carroll's staff, Russell Wilson, like players had a lot of input supposedly in the game plans. Like Russell would actually do that. Like on Tuesdays, he'd like have a plan. Like, hey, he would quiz his receivers and pass catchers on like the opponent. What college did the this corner play at, or what tree does this defensive coordinator like? It was a real deal pop quiz type thing. And so DK kind of comes from that school of, oh, we have a voice here. And he felt that he had a voice. I forget the name of the cornerback that the Niners had at the time, but he was like, I played this dude that you play with the Giants. I kind of know that you got to bait him. He likes to squat on routes, blah, blah, blah. He just had this whole, backlog of information. And I guess he presented it to the coaches. And Tyler Lockett's good at this too. And apparently the coaches were just like, yeah, no, we got it, bro. But lo and behold, they run whatever route, corner squats on it, breaks it up. So DK's mad. And he's like, it's like it wasn't so much like it was on Thursday Night Football too, so there was a million cameras on him, but it kind of looked like this diva receiver wants the ball, but it was like, no, I just want to be heard because I'm used to being heard. That's something as like we can kind of get detached from like the players because they're rich and famous and blah 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 blah. But like they are just people who want to be heard, like so many of us at our jobs, right? So um, that's something I've always known that about DK, but that was I thought a really good example of how something could look a certain way but then you get the context, and it's like, nah, man, that's just a guy who like is used to having his opinion heard about how to help the team win. Because that was the thing. He was like, I just want to, because I know that's how you beat this guy. Not just because I'm doing it because I want to get on the Madden cover. It's like I know he squats on routes. That's a scouting report thing. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all that he's on those details because he wants to win. And he wants to find every little advantage that he can. And that was an example of him having that. And they went on to lose that game, by the way. So that also really made him really mad. And he hates the
Hmm.
Niners. That's the other thing. He really hates pretty much every team in the division, but the Niners in particular.
I'll be excited to see kind of the dynamic when, the Steelers start getting into playing the Ravens and the Browns and the Bengals and kind of how that translates to the AFC North here. I want to ask you kind of a little bit about Mike McDonald because obviously mentioning the Ravens, he comes from Baltimore. The Steelers have some familiarity with him. What are some defining characteristics? Because he's a much more defensive guy. What are some defining characteristics of the Mike McDonald defense that the Seahawks kind of want to embody here?
Yeah, it feels like defense in the last, like, I'd say quarter century is kind of in this. There's been like the Tampa 2 wave that was real hot. Let's call it like early 2000s. And then like 2010 comes around and Pete Carroll kind of yeah, that's a word, popularizes and modernizes cover three. So that becomes like the thing. And then so all the coaches from his tree are getting hired to go be head coaches and defensive coordinators. Robert Saleh, Gus Bradley, Ken Norton Jr., Dan Quinn is now, coach of the Commanders. So that was a thing. And then kind of Vic Fangio came around, and then all these Vic Fangio with the too high cover
Hmm.
six world got started getting hired, as DC's. Clint Hurt was one of those. Brandon Staley is one as well. And now it feels like we're in the more where this is getting to Mike McDonald, kind of the simulated pressure world. Out of two high or single high, it depends. But that is kind of the world we're in now, and you see it from that Baltimore. So that 2023 Baltimore staff that Mike was on as the DC, I think three of those guys left for promotions. Mike became the head coach here. Anthony Weaver, I want to say, is the name of the Dolphins DC. He was the D line coach, I want to say there. The DB coach there, I want to say was Denard Wilson, who's the Titans defensive coordinator now. And then even then, Jesse Minter, who's the Chargers DC, is not from that Baltimore staff, but I believe he worked with the Harbaughs at Michigan, which is also where Mike McDonald works, and they run that scheme too, on top of the Baltimore Ravens currently running that scheme still as well. So in one season, 2023, we kind of birthed like five more teams running the same scheme, right? And it's this
Hmm.
like it's almost like a every, when you get a OC, some of them are like, we want to have five eligibles, right? We want to make sure everybody in the route concept is like a threat to the defense. Mike McDonald kind of comes from a school of like anybody can go get the quarterback. Anybody can affect the quarterback. That blitzing safeties are blitzing backers. We're dropping anybody. It's a little bit more organized chaos ball than like a Wink Martindale or like a Rex Ryan, Brian Flores type of thing. But that's the idea. It's like all 11 guys are eligible, and you don't know who's coming. But it's calculated. That's why it's simulated pressures instead of just all out blitzes. So I feel like that's the of the many defining characteristics, the one that sticks out and the one that's probably the most trendy. Like I said, there's like four or five teams now running the same scheme now, damn near birth from Mike McDonald having the number one defense in 2023.
When you talk about this, a couple things pop into my head. The first thing is that last year Aaron Rodgers was the worst quarterback in the league with a minimum of 300 attempts against the blitz. So some of those pressures, simulated pressures, those could be some problems. The other factor here is the Steelers have a really young offensive line. They've got at right tackle Troy Fautanu. He started in what? It was his second start ever last game. And then at left tackle, Broderick Jones is making the transition. He's only in his third year. It was only his second start at left tackle. Not a good day for the offensive line from the Steelers against the Jets. They gave up, I think it was 4 sacks, 7 QB hits. When you hear that the Steelers have a young offensive line, they've struggled. What do you think is going through the minds of the Seahawks in terms of how they might want to approach that?
Yeah, I think one of the other characteristics of the scheme is just to really like learn your protection plan and just mess it up. Just mess it up as best we can because it's again it's simulated pressure, so it's still just four guys. It's just you don't know which four are coming, when they're coming, through which gap, and that can get really confusing. And it really depends on the team's ability to handle that. Is sometimes dependent on the O line, but a lot of times it's dependent on who has the pen last on your given scheme. Sometimes it's the center, a lot of times it's the quarterback, particularly veteran quarterbacks like Rodgers. I mean, you see that work for Rodgers quite a bit. Sometimes he can get teams in and he can problem solve really well.
Hmm.
And sometimes he doesn't. I think he threw a pick six to Andrew Van Ginkel last year against the Vikings on a simulated pressure. That's an edge rusher, right? Like simulated pressure. He thought he had a hot route, boom, pick six, I believe, or at least a pick. I don't know if he scored, but then he has the same problem against the Seahawks last year. He's playing the Jets. Simulated pressure. It looks like it's cover zero, but it's really a simulated pressure because there was only four guys rushing. He thinks he has a hot route to Garrett Wilson. Leonard Williams picks him off and goes like 93 yards to the house, right? Like those are blitzes, so to speak, but really just like a confuse the quarterback scheme.
Hmm.
So they could have the three of us, and Broderick and Troy out there, and they could have the same issue versus they have five Trent Williams out there. Because that really is about like, can the quarterback problem solve? Like, can he anticipate the pressure the right way? Because you could have five all-pro linemen, you slide the protection the wrong way, and you got a free rusher, right? Like that's just your fault. It doesn't matter who's blocking. So I think that's going to be huge for the Steelers this week. If they do game planning like every other team, I believe in the NFL does. Like Thursday is usually the third down day, third down pressure package days when you practice all that stuff. Thursday is going to be the biggest day of the week, for them because if whatever they figure out or don't figure out on Thursday will probably determine whether they win the game on Sunday.
Let's move to the offense because obviously, in the way that DK Metcalf comes over to the Steelers, there's a big addition in Sam Darnold to the Seahawks. How has he looked so far? How did he look through training camp? How did he look week one from your perspective? And what is kind of the identity that this offense wants to take with him, with Cooper Kupp, with some new faces in this Seahawks offense here?
Yeah, the Seahawks, to their credit, I can respect them a little bit. They changed their QB1. They got rid of the two of their top three receivers, and they cut their starting tight end as well, Noah Fant. They cut him right before training camps with the Bengals now. But they didn't try to do all that and then convince us that they got better because that would be an insult to our intelligence, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just can't tell me that Darnold, Cup, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, like pre-draft at least, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Cooper Cup, JSN, and Darnold is better than Geno, Tyler, DK, and JSN, like and Noah Fant, right? Like you just can't tell us that with a straight face, right? And they didn't try to tell us that. They said maybe it's not the same firepower, but we have a better scheme, a better offensive coordinator. They fired Ryan Grubb, who's now the coordinator at Alabama, brought in Clint Kubiak, the latest in the nepotism cycle of coaching hires. They brought him in, and it's like, okay, we got a better scheme now. Uh, we have we can run the ball a little better now with this scheme, wide zone, perimeter, under center play action. Kyle Shanahan's kind of mastered it lately, but we can do all that better. And that sounds really good, right? And then until you got to go do it, and you realize how much this game is like, you have guys on either side of the ball who can beat the guy in front of them? And the answer on Sunday was no. Right? I was stunned, and not just I was taken aback but not shocked by looking at the passing distribution on Sunday after the game. Jackson Smith and Jigba had 13 targets for 9 catches and 125 yards. No one else had more than 15 yards. Right? Like but that's not.
It was crazy. And I think combined those other guys had what, 9 targets, I think,
Yeah,
compared
they
to
had. I
JSN
think.
had 13 himself.
Yeah, it was like 9 targets, 7 catches, and no first downs either. No one else caught a first down but Jax. And it's just like I could have told you that that was going to be an issue the minute they traded DK and then didn't go draft like Abuka from Ohio State who played with Jax, right? Like or Matthew Golden who's in Green Bay. Like I could have told them if you don't use these resources on another dude, you're gonna be Jackson friends, on Sundays when you have to throw the ball. I don't care what scheme you're running. You can be running the veer, the wishbone, the air raid, the whatever. Like you need pass catchers. That's why teams are willing to pay their number two pass catcher $28 million these days. Like a Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, a T Higgins. Like number twos are making that. Damn, you're number one, right? So for them to kind of zig when the rest of the league was zagging is kind of funky. So what you're going to see on Sunday is a team that's really going to try to run the ball to make sure they don't have to do that. Like really try to just. I think they ran it 22 times. I guess the Niners, like unless the game gets out of hand, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get that number to like 40, 35. Like
Hmm.
really just almost overcorrect a little bit to losing at home week one and say we need to like really assert ourselves, establish our identity. We're a run first team under center. They drafted a fullback in the fifth round. They use him. That's their thing. Whether it works, who knows? Didn't work on Sunday, but that is what they're going to try to do and then continue to do throughout the game, assuming they're just not getting blown out at some point.
And
Well,
it
we'll
comes at a
stopping the
good
run.
time.
Go ahead. Sorry, Jenna. Go ahead.
No, no, I was just saying it comes at a good time, obviously, because, and I'm sure this is the point you were going to make, Mike, but the Steelers' run defense, this was something all off season. There was such an emphasis on. They go out, they draft Derek Harmon in the first round, and then they come in and give up, I believe, 184 rushing yards to the Jets. Like first play of the game, Brees Hall rips off an 18-yard run. You're like, okay, run defense still a problem for this team. So for the Seahawks, this feels kind of like, hey, this is a really solid way to come into a game and correct things that they wanted to attack week one and just weren't able to.
Yeah, and I think yes, but also honestly, if the Steelers had held the Jets to 20 yards rushing, it'd be like we got to assert ourselves. Like it's so much of needing to be their identity because that's the thing. I've been this is my ninth year covering the NFL, and I've learned if your offense doesn't have an identity, you're just cooked, right? I don't really care what talent you have. Like if you don't have an established identity, something you can lean back on, something you can rely on when you need to go to it. Like, all right, last few drives got out of whack, but let's get to who we are right here. No matter what it is, you're a shotgun passing team like the Bengals, you're a heavy personnel run team like the Ravens. Like it doesn't matter what it is. Can you get back to it when times get tough, right? And can you stick with it if it's not working right away? Because that's what a lot of OCs fall into the trap of. So, like I said, if the Steelers give up 300 yards rushing the first game, if they give up 30, I think the Seahawks, because of how week one went, it's just going to come in. It's like we got to run this pill. We got to run the ball. Um, because if they don't, man, they just know every team knows. Like it can get ugly if you can. Like the pass rushers in this
Hmm.
league are too good. The linebackers are too athletic. These corners are freaky, running 4.2s and stuff. Like you can't just put the ball in the air. Whether you have Patrick Mahomes, or Sam Darnold, right? You just can't. There's drawbacks to that. So they know that, and they're gonna come out there and really try to run it. I think a good example is different regime, but the idea was the same. When the Seahawks played the Steelers in 2021, Geno's first start in Sunday Night Football, I forget what the score was at halftime, but I think every play of the opening drive of the third quarter was a run, right? Like and then they scored a touchdown on that drive too. So, um, because they had a convo at halftime and said, let's get back to who we are. Right? We got to run this ball. Ended up losing because TJ Watt's not real, but that was the sentiment.
Yeah.
Like, let's run the ball. That's what they're going to try to do.
I
So you're
remember that
definitely
game.
expect, yeah. So you're expecting a run heavy type of offense from the Seahawks in this one. But I wanted to circle back to JSN. It seems like when they do throw the ball, he is such a big piece of that puzzle. The Steelers, they want to believe that they've remade their secondary now to the point that they can play man coverage against anybody. Now, there's some questions about health. Joey Porter Jr. injured his hamstring in the last game. So, you know, what what does JSN do well? How much do they move him around the formation? What else are they going to do if the Steelers are really keen on him and trying to take him out of the game?
Yeah, I think that the all the Ohio State guys currently in the NFL, like the top ones at least, have kind of established. They all kind of do the same thing. It's like they're just really precise and just really natural pass catchers. Like Emeka is in Tampa, Marvin Harrison Jr. His natural stuff might, little genetics helping him out there, but like even Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, now Jackson Smith and Jigba, like these Ohio State guys are just they're such good route runners. They all have really good hands. They're really natural. They just understand like how to get open. That's like all of their superpower, to be honest. Because none of these guys I just named, Terry McLaurin as well. Let me not forget Terry. Like they're all really, really good hands, really good route runners, just really natural, With the exception of Terry, like none of these guys are like super duper like overwhelming you athleticism wise,
Hmm.
in contrast to like all the LSU guys are just like the best, the most talented dudes you've ever seen. Like Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Jamar, Justin. Like it's just very clear that you just can't guard that guy because he's better than you. Whereas like there are receivers that are bigger than Jackson, that are faster than Jackson, that can jump higher than Jackson, but like he just does all this stuff right, very precise. You could tell that their receivers coach is at Heartline, right? Heartline. He's coaching them really well up there, and it just translates so well to the NFL. So whether you play man, whether you play off man, press man, if you cloud him, whatever, like he's just really good. He's just a really good player. He just understands like that's what the coverage is. Here's what my route is. Here's how I need to go beat you. But he's just got really good hands. I think that's the other thing that stands out. Like a lot of guys like we fall in love a little bit with like the underdog story, like the guy that was like, the undrafted dude, 0-star recruit stuff. That's not Jackson. Jackson was like a 5-star recruit out of Texas and was like one of the most productive wide receivers ever in high school Texas football. Like he's that guy, had 300 plus yards in the Rose Bowl. He's just always been good. And so like he just knows how to be good. It's actually just really impressive because you watch him, he's like not super fast. He's not a super agile either. Doesn't jump super high. He just does everything good. It's really impressive. So yeah, the Steelers are gonna have their hands full. You can't just man up Jackson all the time. Like
Hmm.
he'll hit you for he hit the Niners for a buck 24 yesterday. Like he'll hit the Steelers for a buck 20 as well if the plan is just man him up and live with the results.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who's healthy and what their plan is. Because Jalen Ramsey has been mostly playing in the nickel, but now with Joey Porter injured, depending on his status, maybe he plays a little bit more on the outside. Maybe he's a bigger part of their plan in terms of maybe shadowing or following Jackson Smith and Jigba. So we'll have to see what exactly the Steelers have up their sleeve to try to slow him down.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun watching Jalen. I can't believe Jalen and DK are teammates. Like that is just it's just a crazy thing. Jalen Ramsey, I just can't believe it. Like it's just those
And
dudes
they
just go
actually
at
haven't
it, man.
even they haven't even like gone at it at all at practice. They've been
There
like
hasn't
cordial,
been.
friendly, even during competitive reps during training camp when you're sick of seeing the other guy. Like no fights, no brawls, not even close to any kind of pushing or shoving. So definitely not there on the same team, maybe a level of mutual respect at this point.
Yeah, they've always. I know I've never talked to Jalen, but I know DK has always had the utmost respect for Jalen. Like it's they can be frustrating each other at times, but man, I think DK really learned early on. This guy can look me in the eye because he's as tall as me. He can handle me getting physical with him because he's as big as me, and then he can run with me because he's as fast as me, and he can jump as high as me as well. Like, oh, I need to be on my stuff, or I won't get open
Hmm.
against this guy. And they've had some really good battles. Jalen's had a bunch of picks on targets to DK. DK caught a game winner on Jalen in 2022. I want to say when he was with the Rams. So yeah, they've had great battles. So. But yeah, Jalen. It'd be interesting to see Jalen against like a shiftier dude like Jackson, because that's where like he is a little bit vulnerable. You look at him how he played Garrett Wilson, another Ohio State guy, in the Miami game down there. I want to say that he just get roasted, right? Because those guys are tougher to guard than DK is a little stiffer, he's just as big. Them little smaller guys that can be tough. So that's gonna be a good matchup.
Well, we want to thank you so much for all of your expertise, your football knowledge, your insight here. Please tell people where they can find you, where they can follow you, and get all of the work that you put out for The Athletic.
Yeah, I'll try to make my Twitter or X, whatever Elon's calling it these days, a one-stop shop, for everything. So follow me at Mike Dugar, MikeDugar. My podcast is available there, the Seahawks Man to Man Pod. Hoping to have Mike on there soon. Seahawks Man to Man podcast available wherever you get your podcast. My author page for The Athletic is always in my bio on Twitter too. So boom, like if you just follow me, I put everything there, and it's a one-stop shop.
And you just wrote a book. You might as well pimp your book while you're here.
I can plug the book as well. Yeah, the franchise Seattle Seahawks, a curated history of the Legion of Boom era, available wherever books are sold. The link to it is also pinned to the top of my profile on Twitter, on X as well. Anybody can buy it from me as well in person, but yeah, available everywhere across the world. The e-edition is available right now on the Kindle app and all that stuff too. So yeah, a curated history of the basically the Pete Carroll era from 2010 to 2023. Just dropped on August 12th. So yeah, available everywhere.
Yeah,
Well,
so
now that
go.
is impressive.
Yeah, everybody go pick that up. Well, Mike, yeah, thanks again for the time. I appreciate it and looking forward to seeing you here this weekend in Pittsburgh.
I appreciate you having me.
And welcome back to the Yinziders podcast. As you can see, you clearly know what time it is. It's time for Zeke's picks, Zeke's best bets of the week. Zeke went 13-3 last week, and we want to show you this Nostradamus moment from Zeke when he predicted something I don't think anybody else was going to predict. Zeke is rounding things out, of course, as he is just really trying to make his pick known. He's going Steelers over the Jets, but he is kind of going like this, covering his eyes a little bit. I think he thinks it's going to be a low-scoring game. No? You think it's going to be a high-scoring game? So not only did Zeke predict that the Colts were going to beat the Dolphins, he predicted the Steelers-Jets game was going to be high scoring, which I don't think anybody on the planet had that. So as he settles in here with his Steelers beer and his bone, it's time for Zeke's picks, Zeke's best bets of the week. Zeke, we start things off this week. The Thursday night game, the Commanders are at the Packers. Who you going with, Zeke?
Zeke's going with the Packers in this one.
Yeah, I like the Packers too. I think the way that defense played against the Lions week 1 was spectacular. We kind of had some questions about how Micah Parsons was going to be able to impact that game. I can't get that picture out of my head of him just chasing down Jared Goff, taking him down for his first sack. This one's in Green Bay. Those fans had a lot to cheer about last weekend, and I think they're going to continue to have a lot to cheer about after week 2. The Bengals are playing host to the Jags. Zeke, do you like Cincy? Or do you like Jacksonville?
He just looked right at you when you said Cincinnati. I think he clearly likes Cincinnati. It was almost a look like, why are you even asking me that? I believe in Joe Burrow. The Bengals had their rough game where it was a tight one that they barely squeaked out. He thinks a much more comfortable win this week.
Yeah, I'm going to be intrigued to see how Jacksonville's offense looks against the Bengals defense and kind of seeing the measuring sticks of what this Bengals defense really is, how not great or how much they can hold up against a decent quarterback in this league. But I think Joe Burrow and that offense are going to continue to build. Obviously, you have T. Higgins, you have Jamar Chase. What's not to love about Cincinnati in their offense? Steelers fans, don't come for me. It's a fun offense to watch. But yeah, Zeke, I'm with you on that. I like the Bengals. The New York Football Giants, who put up 6 points, and there's already conversations about when Jackson Dart should start in for the Giants this season. They're taking on the Dallas Cowboys. They're heading to Dallas. Zeke, who are you going with?
I think that he definitely likes the Dallas Cowboys in this one, and I think the way that he switched from the beer toy to the bone toy tells you that he thinks that a switch to Jackson Dart could be coming kind of soon.
Ooh, Zeke, the Bears coming off that tough Monday night loss. Ben Johnson's going back to the team that brought him to Chicago. The Bears heading to Detroit to take on the Lions. Zeke, you going with the Lions or the Bears?
He likes the Lions in this one.
Yeah, I think this is a bounce back game for the Lions for sure. There were so many question marks coming in of what they were going to look like based on the fact that they lost both of their coordinators. Both of their coordinators went on to lose their week 1 games. I think there's some building blocks in Chicago for sure. I just don't think they're taking that step quite yet. That fans, you bring Ben Johnson in and fans are like, okay, we need somebody immediately. They're not there yet. But I do think there's a good foundation being laid. You just need to see Caleb Williams be a little more consistent. So I'm with you, Zeke. I like the Lions in this pick. The Rams, West Coast team coming east-ish. The Rams coming to the Tennessee Titans. Zeke, who you got?
He likes the Rams.
Yeah, Puka Nacua, my goodness. He keeps on just showing ways and finding ways to impress. There was so many questions about, hey, Matthew Stafford coming in off that back injury he'd been dealing with all summer, and they looked solid. And Puka Nacua also, at one point, Zeke would have appreciated this. He got stitches in his eye and then came back and played really well. So he's a tough guy. Zeke relates. So
Zeke also once got bit by a dog, no fault of his own, didn't miss a shift, was back playing quickly after. So he can definitely relate. He's a tough dog.
Tough dog indeed. Might be the toughest pick of the week. Zeke, the Patriots at the Dolphins.
Okay, Zeke, we really need you here. Zeke, look. Hey, who do you think?
He's contemplating.
What do you think, Jenna? You give your analysis first.
I don't love this because I don't love how either of these teams performed in week 1, and I feel like it's such a toss-up. I think at the time that we're recording this, the line was Dolphins -1.5. I feel like I'm only going Dolphins because it's a home game, and I think Mike McDaniel has a lot more at stake than Mike Vrabel and what the Patriots did last week. Talking to some people, I think the Patriots did, there are signs of improvement. There's signs of life that it's like, okay, this team can take some steps forward as they continue to rebuild, but I feel like the Dolphins have better weapons, better players, so I'm going Miami, but I'm being really I want to stay away from this one. I don't like it at all.
Yeah, I think Zeke's going to also go with the Dolphins, but he's not too confident in it.
No, he's just putting all that attention in his bone because he thinks he's spending his bones wisely this week. He's spending his bones wisely. Zeke, San Fran at the Saints. Do the Niners go 2-0, or do the Saints get their first win?
He thinks that they may be back after last year when they suffered so many injuries that derailed what was supposed to be a promising season. I think he's on the 49ers big time.
Yeah, they're obviously going to be missing a lot with George Kittle going on IR, so they're going to be without their tight end, who's a massive weapon when they're in need of weapons with some of those injuries that they continue to deal with. But that defense at the end of the game, when Seattle looked like they kind of had it in the bag, Nick Bosa steps up and says, no, we're winning this game. So I think the defense is going to be what carries the Niners in this game, especially against Spencer Rattler. I believe the Saints put up just 13 points last week, so I'm not high on the Saints. I think they're going to be one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the league this year. So Zeke, I'm with you there. The Buffalo Bills, coming off that unbelievable Sunday Night Football comeback, they are heading to the Jets to take on a division rival. Zeke, are the Bills rolling? Is this destiny for this team?
Yeah, Zeke really likes the Buffalo Bills in this one, and especially when they got all of the bounces. The ball that hit a receiver, and then the Bills end up catching it, the fumble by Derrick Henry. It just seemed like everything was breaking their way, and to the point that Zeke almost is wondering if they're starting to enter a team of destiny type of category at this point. Not there yet. Ready to proclaim and change his Super Bowl pick, but Zeke does like the Buffalo Bills this week.
I mean, hey, is the Bills fight song right now is Mr. Brightside. The line about destiny in there, destiny is calling me, could be a little thing there. That is one of Zeke's favorite tunes. So, Zeke, I like that pick a lot. We'll leave the Seahawks-Steelers game for the end. Little AFC North divisional game. The Browns head to Baltimore to take on a Ravens team that feels like they're going to be pretty pissed after the way they lost that game. Zeke, is Baltimore winning this game? Does Cleveland even have a shot?
Yeah, Zeke obviously likes dogs, dog pounds, things of that nature, but he said Ravens are clearly the better team, and especially after they lost last week, he looks at this as a really good get right game for the Baltimore Ravens.
I forget the name of the dog that is like the dog pound at Browns games, who I've met, by the way. Very good friend of Zeke. He told me to tell Zeke what's up whenever we've been in Cleveland, and Zeke says, "Hey, how are you back?" But yeah, Zeke is going against his friend this week and says, "Hey, sorry, just the Ravens are a better team." Zeke, I respect that. I respect that a lot. Uh, Zeke, your Indianapolis Colts. Is it? Do we call them that yet? The Zeke's Indianapolis Colts are hosting the Denver Broncos. This is an interesting showdown to me. Zeke, who you got? Broncos or Colts?
What do you think?
This one's a tough one for me because obviously it's a little bit tough for us to watch in like deep dive on all of these games. So you get a little bit of a bird's eye view, you read about what people are saying, but the Broncos offense, Bo Nix threw 2 interceptions, and that was a worry of mine. Is there going to be a little bit of a sophomore slump? They've been one of my teams that I've been saying all offseason is going to come in and impress a lot of people. And I think the Colts, on the flip side, surprised a lot of people as well. I know the meme going around today of one of Jim Irsay's daughters. She just had this like phenomenal fit on, and everyone's like, she's such a vibe. This like the vibes are with this team. I feel like I gotta ride Zeke's hot hand here and go with the Colts. I'm probably gonna feel terrible about that pick because I have to remind myself Daniel Jones is still their quarterback, but Daniel Jones looked really good in this game. So I nervously am going with the Colts, but also the Broncos definitely could win this game too. Zeke, who you got?
Zeke is trying to lick the filling out of his bone. I think that's him saying there's still a lot of meat on that bone with the Indianapolis Colts. I think he's reluctantly and cautiously optimistic that his Indianapolis Colts can pull out another win.
Zeke, this is a battle of the birds. As we know, Zeke, you love watching birds out the window and on the back deck. We got the Cardinals. Sorry, no, this is not a battle of the bird. The way this logo looks, me okay. Ignore
Yeah,
all
no.
of that. The Panthers are not a bird.
They're very clearly not a bird.
They're a panther. They're absolutely a
What?
panther. I was so ready for that. Okay. The Panthers, that are not a bird, are taking on the Cardinals, who are very clearly a bird. Zeke does love the Cardinal that likes to frequent the woods near our house. Zeke, you going with the Cardinals? You going with the Panthers, who, again, are not a bird?
He hates this game. He thinks that they're two bad teams, but he's going to go with the Cardinals because he likes watching Cardinals more.
I like that. Zeke, Super Bowl rematch. The Eagles at the Chiefs. Who are you going with?
Even though the Chiefs are coming off of a loss and really need the victory, he just feels like the Eagles won for a reason in the Super Bowl. They have the better roster. They match up better against the Chiefs. No Xavier Worthy still. He I think is going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles again.
And as soon as you said Eagles for the first time, Zeke licked his lips and then proceeded to go back to his bone. He loves this bet, especially because the Eagles are getting Jalen Carter back. He is not suspended. He forfeited the game check, and that was kind of the way that the dust all settled on that situation. Or he was fined, I should say. He
Yeah,
didn't forfeit.
he was fine. They fined him essentially what they were like. You got thrown out before the game even started, so that counts as being suspended. And
Yeah.
then we're going to fine you what would be the equivalent of missing a game. So they basically counted as a time served.
Yeah. 57,000, more than $57,000. That's a lot of bones, Zeke. That's a lot of bones. So yeah, the Eagles, I like that pick too. They look dominant, and before, especially the rain delay really killed me in that Thursday night season opener because their offense looked so great. Things stalled a little bit, as you would expect when a rain delay hits, but I think that offense is going to continue to take strides. AJ Brown is going to get worked in. Fantasy owners, take a breath, but I do like the Eagles a lot. The Falcons at the Vikings. Zeke, how you feeling about JJ McCarthy, especially what we saw from him in the fourth quarter on Monday night against the Bears?
Yeah, he likes the Vikings. He was saying that he feels like that Brian Flores defense is going to cause huge problems for a young quarterback like Michael Penix Jr. So he's sticking with his Vikings.
3 more picks, Zeke. We have a dual doubleheader Monday night between the Bucks and the Texans. That's the first game. Zeke, do you
Bucks.
like the Tampa Bay Bucks? Oh, all right.
He likes the Bucks, he said.
He likes the Bucks. I like the Bucks too. I really like what we saw from Baker Mayfield and Emeka Egbuka, that developing chemistry there between the two of them. We saw it, of course, in the preseason, but I love.
Practice, yeah, we saw it in the joint practice, not even in the preseason, but it was
Yeah,
right there.
I love how he's kind of been worked in, and I just love the explosiveness that they can bring. The Chargers in Vegas, little AFC West showdown going on.
Chargers big time. He thinks they're going to continue to roll after their statement win in Week 1.
Yeah, that was a massive win. I loved what we saw from that offense, and I think just the comfortability. Also, I like their defense too. I know their defense they were the top scoring defense last year, right? Is that correct? Is that the right stat?
What are you talking about?
The Chargers?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure I had the stat correct. Zeke, we need you big here because this is the last one.
Okay,
I
Zeke.
promise you.
Here we go.
Here we go. The Steelers
Zeke.
in their home opener hosting the Seahawks. Do you like the Steelers or do you like Seattle?
Steelers.
Yeah, he's like, why, you guys, this isn't even a question here. Like, he shrugged us off so hard on that. He's like, I'm not even entertaining the answer to it. It's the Steelers. I like that pick, Zeke. I like it a lot. I'm going to be very intrigued to see specifically how the Steelers offense holds up against a Seattle defense that loves to bring simulated pressure. That's going to be kind of what I feel like this game is going to really hinge on for me. But if the offense can continue to put up points the way that they put up points last week, and this can be a thing that is consistent week in, week out, it's going to be a very different style of season than I think we anticipated.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the biggest question mark is like what happens with the Steelers' offensive line. Do they open holes any better? Are they able to run the football? Are they able to protect Aaron Rodgers? And then on the flip side, can the Steelers perform better against a Seattle team that wants to be good running the football but didn't necessarily show that in Week 1? They're going to try to be committed, get back to running the football in Week 2. We will see.
So Zeke went 13-3 last week. How will his picks stack up next week? You'll have to tune in to next week's edition of the Yinziders to find out. But we thank you so much for listening and for joining us this week. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening to the Yinziders, and we'll see you next week.